Satorius.
Hi everyone, I'm Shannon Satorius, and I'm also so excited to be here, just like Adela said. Thank you so much, Adela, for that great introduction. I'm a senior English major myself. I'm a teaching assistant to Dr. Douglas Guerra, along with being one of the fiction co-editors for Subnivean. So I hope the writers here tonight are a little at ease about that one, that I've read your work, all of your work, and I just believe in it so much. I'm also one of the writers for the Great Lake Review. I've been published, I should say, and I'm also the senior editor and soon-to-be editor-in-chief at Her Campus Oswego. If you're unfamiliar with Her Campus, we're an international online college magazine focused on empowering women writers. Her Campus Oswego publishes new articles and pieces of writing every day in multiple genres such as journalism, lifestyle guides, personal essays, poetry, fiction, and we host some great events and workshops to support our writers and editors and the larger community. There should be a link to our website in the chat right now. So check us out. I also wanted to add that if you registered tonight for this event, which you should have if you're here, you've been automatically entered to win a raffle from some fantastic prizes from another literary publication here on campus, the Great Lake Review, which you'll find out more about later tonight. For now, I'd like to turn it back to Adelis, who will talk a little bit about what Subnivean is all about.
Thanks, Cheyenne. So Subnivean is ultimately an adjective meaning situated or transpiring under the snow, a noun as well, denoting a subnivean zone offering warmth and shelter, and a noun meaning a SUNY Oswego publication elevating and amplifying high caliber prose and poetry. Yay! Subnivean's editorial mission is to curate and produce bone deep, high caliber literary art that speaks urgently to an ever more connected international audience. And it appears we are now read all over the globe in at least 46 United States and beyond our borders in 45 more countries. Just as tonight's event is offered for free, we will never charge readers to access the full contents of our issues online. So where Subnivean is housed at the State University of New York at Oswego, where 4 times more snow falls here on than the city in Manhattan, which is very true. We publish 4 issues per year, one in fall, winter, spring, and summer. And my fellow members of our hard-working SUNY undergraduate staff are nose to grindstone right now, preparing for issue 3. So we were super blown away when Daniel Handler, April Sinclair, and Arisa White all graciously agreed to serve as the final judges of our International Subnivean Awards competition in poetry and fiction. We also look forward to announcing the winners and sharing the judges' blurbs in issue 3. So stay tuned for that. But tonight, we have the pleasure of chatting with Mr. Handler, Miss Sinclair, and Miss White. You're probably already fans, but we'll share a little bit about each one now. So, San Francisco native and Wesleyan University graduate Daniel Handler has written numerous notable works, such as The Famous, a series of unfortunate events, where Handler is better known as Lemony Snicket, and which is my personal favorite. I also extremely enjoyed the Netflix rendition of this work. Other works like Watch Your Mouth, Body Grove, The Basic Eight, and more. He won the Kids' Choice Award in 2003 and 2005 for Favorite Book, the Quill Award for a Children's Chapter Book in 2006, and the Writers Guild of America Award in 2019.
So I have the pleasure of introducing Arisa White, who is a Cave Kamen Fellow and an assistant professor of English and creative writing at Colby College. She is the co-editor of the anthology Home is Where You Queer Your Heart and co-author of the middle grade biography Biddy Madison Speaks Up and winner of the 2020 Maine Literary Award for Young People's Literature. Published by Augury Books, Who's Your Daddy is Arisa's recently released poetic memoir, which poet Patricia Smith says unreels like heart-wrenching fragments of film. She serves on the board of directors for Foglifter and Nomadic Press and is a community advisory board member for MWPA. I have read and listened to Arisa's poetry myself, and it is just so magical. So thank you for being here, Arisa. And then our last judge, April Sinclair, whose visionary work I've also read, is the author of 3 fiction novels, Coffee Will Make You Black, Ain't Gonna Be the Same Fool Twice, and I Left My Back Door Open. As announced in O Magazine, Coffee Will Make You Black, which upon publication was named a Book of the Year in the Young Adult Fiction category by the American Library Association, is now slated to become a major motion picture starring Gabrielle Union, produced by Octavia Butler, and directed by Deborah Riley Draper. April also received the Carl Sandburg Award in Literature from the Friends of the Chicago Public Library. So please welcome our 3 incredible judges who we have some questions for, and we'll see where they lead us. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'll start off with a question for all of our judges. So for the 3 of you as writers, you guys are universe creators, but in what literary universe, be it a book, story, or poem, would you like to live in if you choose one?
I don't know. Where do I want to live? I don't know. I don't know. I'm reading a beautiful book now. I read only poetry during April, which I recommend. It's Poetry Month, so I only read poetry. I'm reading this book right here, which is called, I don't know if you can see it. It's called Fiends Fell. And it's a bunch of poems and prose that this poet Tom Pickard wrote when he was out in the way boondocks of the British countryside, and that is very appealing, I think, now. But I don't think I would probably go crazy like after a few days. But as someone who's been stuck in the city for too long, as we've all been stuck wherever we are for too long, reading about isolated rural locations sounds lovely.
Nice.
Oh, go ahead. No.
I was kind of thinking more in terms of genre with this.
Okay.
I guess I would live in poetry, but that's just like my life. So in this immediate moment, I actually thought about a graphic novel. I wrote the idea of, I don't know, just some color and just being drawn. So I would like to be in a kind of drawn world with like the text just like hanging out on the side of my head, or below me to transition somewhere, and then there'd be like a kapow or like boom, the onomatopoeia all around. So like that.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Arisa. You would have the most poetic answer, of course.
I want to change my answer.
Mine is going to be kind of traditional, I guess, in that I would like to live in a diverse, inclusive, creative, inspiring, made a few notes, environment that affords writers and artists stipends that enable them to create. I live in a naturally beautiful area. I'm in the Bay Area, but it's expensive, but it offers a wide range of opportunities for readings and events, etc. Because it's kind of compact. There's San Francisco, Berkeley, Oakland. I'm in Marin, which is expensive. So, but I'm within an hour of Oakland, or less with Berkeley, etc. So I can get around. So we have a wide range of literary options. So I appreciate that. But again, it's expensive. So I would like to be in a place where everyone has the an opportunity to create and keep the wolf away from the door. And I'm one of those people. I have experience with that as well.
April, I wanted to ask you if you could, thinking about that, if you could tell like your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
I thought about that and I said, a part of me wants to say to the younger writer self, just write, don't worry about success, because I was told develop excellence, avoid success even, because it's like all about the work, just always do the work. But I didn't grow up with I didn't come with a silver spoon in my mouth or anything like that. So it was always a balancing act, juggling, keeping, surviving as well. And there were times when I did get successful, but it's still, actually, it didn't last forever. And it's always been about keeping it together and having a roof and food and taking care of the dogs, etc. So I would say never forget you're a writer, no matter what. Always see that as your main career and everything else is a day job. Don't ever lose sight of the focus. And also buy Apple and invest in real estate. Other than that.
That's funny. That's great.
So that's kind of
Thank
what
you
I
for
would tell my
sharing
young.
that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's great. So Dan, I have a question for you. I was just wondering, what was one of your earliest experiences where you learned that language and or writing had power?
I mean, I think from the very beginning, I lived right near a public library. I grew up right near a public library, and so I was there 2 or 3 times a week. And I had really wonderful librarians where I was at the West Portal branch in the San Francisco Public Library, and there were writing classes there too when you were for very, very young kids. I remember the kind of paper it had. It was that really wide paper with a dotted line in the middle, right? So that's how young I was, is that I was writing on that kind of paper. And I don't think my words had a lot of power for anyone else, but they had a lot of power for me. And just being able to kind of make something, to kind of think of something, and then before you knew it, you could write a sentence was really a very powerful early experience for me. And it still kind of feels that way to me. I was doing just tiny revisions on this thing today, and just to know that you could like cross out the sentence and write another sentence and the whole thing would be different is really powerful. That the novelty of that is never worn off. So I was really little when I first wanted to be in the world of books and of literature.
Inspiring.
I wanted to ask, April, since we're talking about like, our young writing selves, how much do you think a writer should be susceptible to things like emotion or feeling? Is that a writer's strong suit? And if not, like, what do you think is?
I think emotions are important. I think it's because they tie into passion. I think it's important to be passionate and have passionate about work and about people and life. And so I think it's an important quality to be able to not only be emotional, but to be able to move a reader emotionally. But of course, there's so many other things like being able to use words effectively, being a wordsmith, discipline, being open-minded to seeing your work through the eyes of maybe an editor or readers as well. Because there are people who used to say, no, I don't want anyone to change one word and all of that, but you don't know everything. So I think that can be really helpful. So there are qualities in addition to being emotional that are important. It's kind of the whole package in a sense. And I think but also being a keen observer. I think ultimately a writer on some level is always an observer. You're always kind of taking mental notes because you want to feed it back. You want to creating comes out of observing the human condition and people and empathy and emotion. It's all important, but discipline is important as well. I had a writing teacher, James Fry, who said talent and determination lead to success, but determination is more important than talent. And I know some people have a problem maybe being able to imagine that being the case, but when you think about, I'm not pointing out Madonna just, like, but I'm not saying, and I was a Madonna fan, but of her music, but, I'm not saying she's the best singer in the world, but she was determined. So that's where, I think that can make the difference.
Arisa, your poetry, what that I've read, that I've heard, very in touch with emotion, very in touch with the soul. How would you say the events of the past year have, impacted the way that you've been writing and what you get in touch with?
I think more so being attentive to my daily life and treating that as like just material to play with. I think oftentimes for myself, I can get caught up in this larger idea of a project or some kind of, I don't know, big thing I'm working on. And then it takes me away from just being attentive to the day-to-day, the rituals that keep me going. So if anything, the pandemic just made me more aware of, what I do in a day, waking up, eating, just noticing things in a different way because I can't leave my house. It's just me, the wife, and the dog over and over again. And so it's like, how do I find ways to refresh my eyes? How do I make something sort of stand out? And then also, how do I language those moments that aren't extreme or dramatic or, I'm not pushed to any, extreme side of the emotional spectrum. And I think that is often the challenge. It's just like when you feel good, nothing's going wrong, you're not too happy, you're not too sad, it's just chill. And really learning how to tap into that and not sort of feel like that's the boring part of my life. But actually, it's sort of the exercise for helping me sort of build a foundation for tackling, say, like the larger themes that I want to deal with in my work. And I just believe that there's a certain kind of beauty that you can learn of yourself when you just notice who you are each day with like no sense of shame or judgment.
That's lovely.
I wanted, sorry, something you said, April, about Madonna is kind of interesting. Because it also reminds, like, yes, the discipline, but also too, just thinking about the support and the system that further disciplines her, right? So I'm thinking of the manager. I'm thinking of the record label. Like there's this, like it speaks to that community of diversity that you mentioned in the sort of first, like in the beginning of our talk. But it's, yeah, you can be disciplined, but it's also that community is there. There are people supporting you. There's this network that's building you up. You can't hold a note, but like,
no, but not like
but it's like, but other things are holding you up.
It's a village.
Yes, it's a village causing that one to sing.
It would take more than a village for me to be
yeah, but it's just like, yeah, we also have that village behind us as well.
Good point. Good. Thank you. Yes.
So speaking about, community and sticking together, the three of you write really differently from one another and from other writers as well, which is why we distinctively love your work. So what do you each appreciate most about a genre that you're not really known for writing in, or about an author who writes differently from you?
I appreciate mystery thrillers, and I don't know if I'll ever write one. I certainly haven't tried yet. And I read like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and The Girl on the Train, and loved also Murder on the Orient Express. So I love a good mystery, a good thriller, but I don't. So I admire it without feeling like I could do it. I'm not sure. I don't think so, but I haven't tried. And also a writer that's different for me would be that I admire greatly is Toni Morrison. And I know people that were not voracious readers necessarily, but I had a friend that said, well, why can't she write like you? You know, or something. I'm thinking, you're talking about Toni Morrison. Okay, I'm at her feet. I'm trying to, you know what I'm saying? Because someone asked her on a show if there was, I can't forget if there was a writer she could see coming up that could maybe be like her or something, and she named me. I was shocked to hear this. I haven't verified it. This was years ago. And so I told the friend, and she said, well, why doesn't she write more like you? So I'm just saying. And, you know, I can laugh myself because it sounds foolish to me. I'm not taking nothing away from me, but I'm not Toni Morrison. Okay. Who is? I'm just saying.
Get in line. I don't think any of us are.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm not delusional. Okay, nothing to take, not to take anything away from me. No, just saying. What about you, Daniel?
Well, I mean, I read a lot of poetry. I started out as a poet, but I always think that's kind of how everyone starts. I'm actually trying to write a little piece about that to begin with. You know, it's like probably when you were young, if you wrote anything down that could be construed as creative writing, that's probably what it was first, was a poem. And,
right, me too.
And it's very, I don't write poetry anymore, and I really like not writing it and still having just like mountains of poetry to be in, because I can just read it and not feel at all like it's like part of a game, you know, like I don't have to feel competitive or I don't know, or jealous or part of a tradition or anything like that. I can just kind of bask in it. And also, I think if you write kind of narrative prose, and you're used to trying to figure out, okay, what's going to happen at the end of this chapter that'll be suspenseful, so I want to put something over here, and then just push into poetry, which really lives in a different space. I always remember when my son was little, he liked categories. He was one of those kids who really liked to kind of figure out what category everything was in. And he asked me what I was reading, and I told him it was poetry. And he said, is that fiction or nonfiction? And without thinking about it, I said, oh, it's neither. And it like blew his mind. There was something that was neither of those things. And I don't think I had ever really thought of it exactly that way. And then it kind of blew my mind. So my mind is still blown from it years later.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Not when I read a book and like I read across like all different genres, I'm actually not thinking of it as different from me. I'm often like, what can I borrow and steal? So like if I'm reading a romance novel, I'm like, oh, this level of sentimentality, like how can I carry that over to what I'm doing? You know, that feels comfortable to me without being like his third member, you know. It's,
oh, okay.
it's like, you know, it's like you don't want to go there, but then it's just like, but it's just that kind of like plain, like that, it's just like in your face, it's there, it's sort of raw. And then I even think of like Junot Diaz, and then there's this other element of like, it's in your face, it's raw. Alexis Pauline Gumbs, in that way in which she blends poetry and scholarship, like deeply, like her work is rooted in like, you know, Sylvia Wynter, you know, and it's just these theorists are like making this amazing poetic reimagining of, you know, marine mammals to think about Black feminism. Like, so if anything, like each genre, people doing what they do and the ways in which they're going to figure out how to tell a story teaches me that, you know, I can, steal and borrow and reimagine from each sort of, genre, even like a graphic novel. Like in some ways, like my last collection, the poetic memoir, Who's Your Daddy? I was reading a lot of graphic novels, and it sort of helped me think about, a contained unit. It really brings to the forefront like the image, the idea of the image, like it's painting it, an image paints a picture in your head, and it has all of the senses. And then when you look at the graphic novel, it's like right there doing it for you in this visual way. So how do you translate that visual element onto the page through words? So I'm just, I'm always just trying to like blend and do as much as I can, and just like, just be disobedient. I feel like being a poet allows me to be disobedient and disobey the genres and the rules and just do what I need to do to tell a story.
I can really relate to that writing process. Since we're in a literary competition, I wanted to ask, since we're talking about genre too, what did you guys look for when you were judging the works that you were reading from our finalists?
I gotta say, it was really hard. It was really good work. And I've judged things before, and usually there's like a first round where I get to say, okay, this stuff is not what I'm looking for. And then I had no first round this time. I just was stuck with like the good stuff, and that was really hard. And I just say that because I don't know. I hope everybody, I hope to convey that it was a very difficult decision. I knew someone who was running a literary magazine once, and I went to see him at his office, and he had just the piles of everything that people had sent. And I said, how do you even start? And he said, I look for a consistent rate of surprise, which I thought was pretty interesting. And I think about that a lot when I'm looking at my own work, and when I'm looking at work I admire. I think, oh, what is this? And surprise isn't always quite the right word, but kind of this startle, this like, oh, we're here now. Oh, we're here now. And even if it ends someplace in a way that is predictable in some way, that you're still surprised when you get there. And I think that's it's difficult to quantify, but I think I think about that a lot.
Yeah, I have a similar thing, surprise. But and it's also this way, like it's like I do this when I know like it's also good. Like there's this sense of embodiment for me. It's like hot damn. Sometimes I'll throw it across the room because I just need to let off some of the energy that I just received from it. And I'm also really fascinated by form. So how someone is reimagining form, pushing form, creating their own form through the logic and being of the poem, or through the logic and being of the narrator's embodiment. I like the idea of something that feels familiar, and then somewhere along the way, it just gets like fucked with until it becomes this like new thing, this new space of possibility. And I'm transported and I'm there with them. And I also like control. It's this a sense of discipline, a sense of being able to master the energy and pacing of a piece. It's like watching a dancer and their muscles, and recognizing that because they've disciplined their muscles so much, they can now fly. And so the poem is flying like a beautiful muscle.
It's nice. Wow. How can I follow that? Let's see. I think that for me, it's a process as well. And at first I read it from the perspective of a reader. You know, like if I'm just reading this, I'm not trying to read it from the perspective of as a judge. And that's the first reading. And you have a initial reaction to something, just like eating a meal or something. You know whether you like it or not. I mean, before you start getting into what did I eat, you know, it was good. They put goulash together. It was good. Then you start getting into the textures and this and the balance and the flavors. So I read it the first time and just kind of react emotionally, more or less, or do I like it? And the second time I read it, I'm looking for things that I might have missed the first time. I'm looking at the craft. I'm looking at the characters. Are they well drawn? I'm looking, is the dialogue believable? I'm looking at those kinds of things. Does it have a sense of completion? Do I feel like I've been on a journey? What is the point? Is there growth? Is there all those things I'm looking at more? And then I'll probably I read everything. This was a hard one too. I have to say it was tough for me. It was tough. So I went to the third reading, you know, the things you don't see with the second. And in the end, ultimately, I go with my head, I go with my heart, and I go with my gut, finally. So I didn't know at first, I'll be honest, this was tough. And so it's a process. It's a labor, a labor of love sometimes like this. It was tough. So I saw they were both winners as far as I'm concerned. I just had to make a choice. But I was very impressed.
I always try, whenever like a student or anyone says like, what do you like, how do you know it's good? How do I make it good? I always think like, well, what you like, it's good. And it can be kind of hard to pick apart that equation or something, but it's not a mystery. And I think, I always think a big step in trying to figure out what your path is going to be as a writer is to start with the canon of the things that you like, right? There's so many conversations about a literary canon that are like historical and political and all these things, which is totally fascinating if that's what you're doing. But I just think like, as an artist, it's what you love, like your thing that you love. And it's not even maybe a book, it's like 3 little lines in a thing, right? Or it's like a line of dialogue that you never forget. It's these things, and you have to start. It's built out of enthusiasm, like April was saying, right? It's built out of your gut and your head. And I just think like there's so much in this culture that will tell you that what you like and what you respond to doesn't matter. They want to tell you what you like and you respond to in one way or another. And it's like, what you like. And I think particularly when you're studying writing, a lot of people are going to feed you something, they're going to be like, this is a classic, you're going to love it. And maybe but you don't want your own enthusiasm. You want anyone to tell you that doesn't matter. You don't want that pushed aside. That's what the project is made of.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing sadder than making work that you are not believing in. And I think that's something that people can spot a mile away. That was what was really inspiring about reading these pieces, is like, I knew people were in it.
Yeah.
To win it. Yes. Yeah.
So true. I love that, Danielle. Make your own canon. So true. It's
yeah. So just one last question out of curiosity. I think we all kind of wonder, once you guys have like published work and stuff, do you guys Google yourselves and read things about yourself?
Oh,
yes.
I don't, not at this point. I'm trying to hide, escape. It's scary. There's so much online now. You don't know, it scares me.
I cannot think of anything that is worse for you. Yeah. I would recommend like a bottle of Jim Beam and some heroin.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm in denial. stay in
That's great.
denial.
I mean, that's just me, but
That's great.
yeah, I don't, yeah, I actually remember very early in my career when also the internet was a baby, that I found something that someone had written about me, and it was like the worst, and it was super positive, but it was the worst feeling in the world. I didn't like it at all. You know, and I think the way in which enthusiasm can be conveyed sometimes is just really weird. And it felt like, and the way it was a positive review, was like a little positive thing, but it felt like my name was on a bathroom wall with like, for a good time call, and someone was like, I don't get it. And I was like, that's not a compliment.
Oh, that's right.
That's great. I take it straight to the vein. I do check. I do. And I think more so around kind of publication time, but it's not anything obsessive. I recently had my website hacked. So, you know, it's just like those things kind of remind me that I have to be attentive to this internet world and kind of tend to what I can tend to as much as I can. But I don't read anything. I just want to see what's there. Similar to you, Daniel, like there's this way, even when something's positive, it's like, I don't know, I often get in this very judgmental space. I become editorial in the sense of like, I was an editor for a while, so then I'm just like, this sentence and this clause doesn't make any sense. Why are you using really, really, really all of the time? So it's like those things I just stay away from.
It's better.
Well, I think that's pretty much the end of the conversation. That was incredible. I'm so sorry your website got hacked, Arisa. Oh my goodness. I just want to say that before we move on. Thank you guys again for all of your responses. This was just an incredible conversation. Once again, thank you. Round of applause
Thank
to
you
you
for
guys.
having us. Oh, you didn't ask us if we would come to to the college in the 12 feet of snow. The 12 feet of snow.
Yes.
Yes, I'm from Chicago. So I remember, you know, it's not as much, but we had a big snow. I've been in Siberia, as they called it, a few years ago. So no, I'm not scared of snow.
I will complain about the cold the whole time, just so you know.
And since I'm like now in Maine, I'll just be like, this is nothing.
Yeah, I've been in Minnesota on book tour and all that when it was 50 below zero as well. So, and Wisconsin and Madison and all that, Ann Arbor, that whole stretch was cold and there were the winters. So can't keep me away just because of a lot of snow.
You know, we had a pretty mild winter, I would say, this year.
Until spring.
Until spring. You're right about that.
As mild as San Francisco, though, like we had a really mild winter.
We did. And we had a really nice spring until now. Until it got cloudy today. So, no, it's fine.
Yes, thank you again. I hope you guys visit, and I want to transition now to we have a sacrificial first reader from Subnivean's older sibling publication, The Great Lake Review. For those of you who haven't had the experience of reading your work for a crowd, it can be very nerve-wracking to go first. So on that note, I also want to introduce The Great Lake Review. The Great Lake Review is Subnivean's older sibling student-run publication at SUNY Oswego, as I've said. It was founded in 1974, and it will sooner release its 90th edition. While Subnivean features authors working around the globe, the Great Lake Review publishes SUNY Oswego students reviewing content anonymously to eliminate potential bias. The journal will host a virtual release party for its 90th edition in collaboration with the Rivers End Bookstore on May 6th at 6 p.m. And they would love to see you guys there. Information about the Great Lake Review the Great Lake Review's party will be posted on their Facebook page, and I believe a link was already sent in the chat. It may be sent again. But we have someone from the Great Lake Review who will be reading. Alex Borowski is a graduating senior at SUNY Oswego. She's been published in the Great Lake Review and is currently the editor-in-chief for the publication. Alex has received the Rosalie Battles Creative Nonfiction Award, Literary Citizen Award, and the Outstanding Senior Award at SUNY Oswego. Alex will be moving on to Florida Atlantic University to pursue an MFA in creative nonfiction while teaching composition courses. She hopes to eventually become a creative writing professor and looks forward to publishing her first book of creative nonfiction essays. So, welcome, Alex, and you can go right ahead on telling us about what you'll be reading today.
Thank you. That wow, having someone read your bio, crazy. I'm gonna read a poem that I wrote a little while ago. It is a short, quick one, but it contrasts pollution of the earth to pollution of women in society, and it's called Lily Pads. I hope you enjoy it. All the girls whose names are Lily float peacefully in a pond. Frogs rest on moist lily chests. Flowers bloom from wide lily navels. Fish lay their eggs in a tangle of lily hair. Lilies, who were once betrothed, release their golden rings to the sediment below for divers to find. With their metal detectors and their soaked divorce papers, ink bleeds off, polluting Lily's water, smearing Lily's name. Frogs avoid salt, leaking from languished lily eyes. Divers pluck lilies from the pond, lilies held by soaking hair and angry fists, water rivulets running down tips of lily toes. Culled lilies soon lay dry at night, wishing they lay with the ecosystem, remembering the freedom which was the night sky. Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Our next reader would be Joan Kwon Glass, author of How to Make Pancakes for a Dead Boy, forthcoming from Harbor Editions in 2022. Serves as poet laureate for the city of Milford, Connecticut. A biracial Korean American who holds a bachelor's and an MAT from Smith College. Joan is poetry co-editor for West Trestle Review and poetry reader for Rogue Agent. Her poems have recently been published or are forthcoming in Korean Quarterly, Rattle, Literary Mama, and many, many more. Since 2018 alone, Joan has been nominated 4 times for the Pushcart Prize. Here's Joan.
Hi. My name is Joan. I'm extremely nervous on video reading, which is really strange because I'm a middle school teacher and I have done way too much Zoom recording and teaching in this past year. But I'm really, really happy to be here. I have, like, up until this moment was trying to decide which 3 poems to read because I think I have enough time for about 3 poems. They're all very different from one another. The first poem is called Dear Ghosts of Jeju Uprising, 1948. And it's a historical poem. I grew up in South Korea and I spent a lot of time on Jeju Island, which has a really incredible history of resistance. And this poem is about the Jeju Uprising, which took place in 1948 after years of colonial rule by Japan and the pending Korean War. Many, many people died resisting the new regime. So this is Dear Ghosts of Jeju Uprising, 1948. It's been 40 years since you died, resisting Korea's division. I am spending one summer here on the island with my grandmother, where tobacco chewing ajushi sell red bean popsicles and melon ice cream beneath hagul trees. I wander the beaches where, since the Dark Ages, pearl divers have held their breath and submerged themselves in the Pacific, retrieved what they found to sell or eat to keep their families alive. When I grow tired of ojingo, abalone, and rice, my grandmother finds a place that sells American food, and I gorge on pizza and plain hamburgers, tiny cans of Sprite, which Koreans always sip with a straw, but I pour down my throat like an American. From our room at the Hyatt, I drift to sleep each night as my grandmother says her Christian prayers aloud in the bed next to me. As the lily-scented, warm wind outside my open window perfumes my dreams of silver boats floating near the horizon. I know only a few phrases in Korean. That hurts. May I please have strawberries? I don't understand. My grandmother only knows hello and goodbye, yes and no. One day I teach her to say fish, but because in Korean there is no letter F, it sounds like pish. When I giggle at her, she says it again, and we go on like that for a while. Me trying to teach her, and she saying pish, 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 both of us laughing until our eyes brim with salt water. Today, a guide leads tourists by Doto Cave. In 1948, you hid here for 60 days, decided you'd had enough of war, mostly farmers caught between sides, determined to no longer belong to anyone but each other. Ghosts of Jeju, if you could speak and I could understand you, what would you say? Would you say, hello, say it hurts, say pish over and over until the boats cross the horizon, until I dream myself into the cave where your moon white bones stand together still in our still divided country, roaring in every language. The next poem I have is called Night Swim. And this poem refers to a news article that I wrote, and I often follow successful or unsuccessful escapes by North Koreans into South Korea. It's something that I'm just very interested in. And this particular poem refers to a man who actually swam undetected across the East Sea in flippers and a wetsuit and made it like miles on land into South Korea. So this is Night Swim. In February, a man in flippers and wetsuit swims undetected across the East Sea along the border of North and South Korea. Once on land, he crawls through a drain beneath barbed wire, walks for miles before being caught. Video footage shows him at 4 a.m. at Gosan Village, security tower strobe light flashing out, exposing him. He takes a few steps forward, then teeters back, hesitates, confused, and hypothermic. How many of us have been carried off at night by sudden current of grief or shock, only to find ourselves disoriented, standing on the shore of a strange country? The addict we love chokes on his own vomit and dies. A child we bore into this world finds it impossible to remain. The landscape doesn't change, but everything else does. We pick out a child-sized coffin, blue as a sea full of stars. Of course, they don't release the man's name. They don't show his face, only the back of his body as he staggers forward in the darkness, whispering to himself, I am home, I am home. The last poem is called Hymn to Church Basements, and I have never read this poem anywhere. And the reason for it is because I am a member of a 12-step fellowship. I am in recovery. I'm an addict in recovery. And I wrote a hymn to the places that have saved my life over the past several years. And I hope that it does that world justice. You know, there's really no way to thank a group of people or a program or a system that has saved your life over so many years, but I did my absolute best. This is Hymn to Church Basements. This world loves a grand cathedral, its righteousness and pulpit, purported sanctuary of redemption, holy spire and stilled saints, history of fire and painted glass, pews where congregants pray and worship, troubled by questions they hope someone has answers to. They wait on their knees to be forgiven. But where are the songs of praise for church basements? That lower level, that rock bottom room, sunken and reverent with flickering lights, water-stained ceilings, and coffee-stained carpets. Its full moon of chairs that appear every night at 8 o'clock because a crackhead made a commitment. People don't kneel in church basements. Instead, we squat against walls and stand, arms crossed in doorways. We sit slouched and messy, look each other in the eyes, say, I am an addict and I don't want to die. And oh God, is this not some kind of miracle? I prefer my angels banged up and salty, chubby from eating cookies instead of shooting dope. They pull splinters from their wings, hug the newcomer too tightly, shake their heads at me when I don't raise my hand to share. No matter how tough I try to look, no matter how long it takes, they say, keep coming back, kid. Tonight, the addict who overdosed last month, the one who had to be revived with Narcan, is making the coffee. Who decides what is sacred? That's all I've got. Thank you for listening.
That was absolutely beautiful, Joan. I know you were nervous. We're all nervous here, but that was incredible. You did a great job. Just want to make sure that you know, since I know being nervous is a common theme for readers. Okay, so I want to introduce our next reader. Kyle Ray is a queer writer from Youngstown, Ohio. They are currently living in Brooklyn and pursuing an MFA in creative writing at the New School. Kyle is an Aquarius with a passion for both hummus and Carly Rae Jepsen. Their work can be found in Dirty Girls Magazine, Jenny Magazine, and soon Subnivean. You know, Kyle, I'm also an Aquarius who loves Carly Rae Jepsen. We have so much in common. I'm so excited to hear what you read.
Yes, I love finding more Aquarius. Thank you so much for having me. I just want to apologize in advance if you hear my dog bark in the living room. I'm in a very small apartment in Brooklyn and the sound does carry. So yeah, I am reading my story collections. The foot shavings have been sitting in the Pyrex bowl I stole from my mom for 3 years now. I add to them with a rigorous heel shave whenever nature calls, a flurry of dead skin cascading into smaller piles that would come to grow into mounds. I began accumulating the heel dust when I realized my body was a much more lucrative commodity than my art. I turned to the internet to sell my used panties since I could never sell my paintings, and I fell into a digital sex work minefield of webcams and secret auctions. I discovered a discrepancy amongst supply and demand for foot shavings shortly after and got right to work to bridge that gap. The foot shavings were there for me after graduation, waiting in my likely haunted studio apartment to cheer me on when I came back with my BFA. They moved back home with me to the cute yet racist little town of Girard, Ohio, saran wrapped tight and tucked away beneath piles of shoplifted perfume bottles and 4 months worth of dirty laundry and in my old duffel bag from my cheerleading days. I often think the foot shavings will be here when I'm dead, mourning my loss once I'm a pile of ashes in a container not unlike their Pyrex bowl. I tell Shayna all of this with a grim expression so they know I'm serious. It's like a fine wine, I say, relying on cliche for their forced understanding. The longer I hold my bounty, the better. That's fucking sick, Shayna says. You're fucking sick, I say. Shayna is the only other trans person I know within a 10-mile radius of Girard, besides myself, that is. I don't necessarily expect them to understand. I don't really expect anybody to understand. Not that I care to have anybody's understanding about anything. Don't your feet ever hurt? Shayna asks. Or like, you know, bleed? That's why I only shave once a day, I say. I learned that lesson the hard way at the end of my sophomore year. I was shaving my feet 3 times a day during finals week that fall. I'd shave with my morning coffee and again with my 2 o'clock bowl of chili flavored ramen, slurping up noodles with my chopsticks in one hand and sloughing off my dead heel skin with the other. I was leaving my apartment with soggy socks clinging tight to bloody heels without even noticing. I'd come home and peel off my nose shoals, once an eager, flashy white, now made into a twisted ruby tie-dye that couldn't possibly be ignored. Still, I'd shave my feet once more after dabbing at the blood with some squares of toilet paper, embracing the jolting pain and making sure to wrap them tight with gauze for the evening so I wouldn't drip trails around the place. Shaving so much was fucked up. Even I knew that. But there was something about the ritual, about the pain that kept me going. It was like when Shayna and I used to stick our tongues to batteries we'd pry from television remotes as little boys. The shock to our system registering as pain, but making us feel alive all the same. My dad caught us once and removed all the batteries from the remotes in the house. When he caught us wearing my mother's heels that same night, he put a padlock on their closet door. He always had a way of painting over our childhood impulses with the oily black sheen of societal shame. I can't talk about your feet anymore, dude, Shayna says. I've got to get home and make sure my mom's using her CPAP tonight. Shayna's mom is morbidly obese, something that isn't at all uncommon in Northeast Ohio. Shayna's been taking care of her since we were in 8th grade, when their brother moved away to be a screenwriter in LA and never came back. They used to be into fashion. They'd sketch designs on Bristol pads in my basement while I'd brush across my canvas. But now they're not really into anything. I tried to get them to move to Ann Arbor with me for school, but they were convinced it would get them nowhere other than a gaping hole of debt. Now that I'm back home, it's starting to feel like they were smarter than I gave them credit for. I love you, I say. I hug them tight and they get into their 2003 Nissan, waving as they pull off. I walk back inside my mom's pastel purple ranch and settle into the guest bedroom. My mom started renting the ranch after my father killed himself the day after my 16th birthday. She put our old house on the market, and that was that. I rarely leave the guest bedroom. I guess it's technically my bedroom, and it's always technically been my bedroom, but it feels more temporary calling it the guest bedroom. I like temporary. I get under the covers and turn on my side, the closet light shining on my face. I see the Pyrex bowl sitting on top shelf of the closet before my eyes catch a group of blank canvases staring pointedly at me from the floor. There's a stack of 3 cardboard boxes next to the canvases, each one labeled Snow Globes, Don't Open, in my shitty teenage handwriting. I turn to my other side and wait for sleep. Shayna comes by the next day, as they do most days. We sit in the guest bedroom, taking turns rubbing at the kinks in each other's shoulders. I ran into Keith B at Giant Eagle this morning, Shayna says. Their thumbs dig deeper into the muscles as they speak. Oh my God, Keith B used to be so hot, I say. I envision his happy trail sneaking out from underneath his GHS basketball tank as he jumped to make shots during games, my drool visibly falling onto my pom-poms from the cheer line. He still is, Shayna says. I was hoping you'd say he was hideous. Yeah. Their voice holds on to the end of the word, searching for something more to say, even though they have nothing else to offer. We never really have anything to say anymore. Our friendship has become enveloped in the silence of nothing and everything. Do you want to smoke? I smile and herd them out the back door into the completely empty tree-lined backyard. This is the only place I go besides the guest bedroom. My mom would have a fit if she smelled weed in the house. We sneak back into the line of trees that divide the backyard from the drab housing development behind it, passing the 3-foot-tall statue of the Virgin Mary that stands before their opening. We're always careful with our steps, tiptoeing around sticks to avoid gaining my mom's attention inside. Shayna pulls a blunt from their favorite yellow clutch and sparks it, sitting on a fallen tree. We lose ourselves in the anonymity of another blackened Ohio night. We smoke the blunt to a stub, listen to the cicadas click, 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 and talk about our old 5th grade English teacher with the pot belly and apparently big dick who Shayna hooked up with last week. We used to sit in the back of his classroom and paint each other's nails. Seafoam, periwinkle, mustard. I'd always be sure to keep acetone in my locker to rub the color away before I went home. I want to fuck a teacher, I say. They're all on Grindr, Shayna says. Actually, I don't ever want to fuck anyone again. I take a final drag from the blunt and rub out on the ground, handing the roach over to Shayna to put it back in her clutch. Did he know who you were? I don't think so, Shayna says. If he did, he was too afraid to tell me. Huh. Once we've allowed ourselves to be made into meals for the mosquitoes, we make our way to the front of the house. I play with Shayna's dreads, twirling the beads they disperse so pristinely amongst the hair between my index finger and thumb, and tell them I want them to give me box braids like they had last summer. They tell me I'm a racist white bitch, we hug, and they leave. I head back to my bedroom, pick up my pet egg, and get to work. I watch the flakes fall one by one into the off-white banks in the bowl. The house is depressing, so the shaving is really the only thing that keeps me going. The walls hold my mother's PTSD to the point of suffocation. I felt it seeping into my pores ever since I've been back. A sticky hot film of desperation and anger layering in the air like paint fumes with no open window to escape through. The walls smell like mothballs, which I guess is what depression smells like. My mother wasn't happy when I told her I was coming to live with her again. She helped me move my sparse belongings into her home in silence the day after my graduation, which she didn't attend. We walked my bags into the guest bedroom and dropped them on the floor. I have Zumba every evening at 6, she told me. Nice, I said. Find a place soon, she said. She paused in the threshold on her way to her own bedroom. I felt her eyes gripping onto me, trying to make sense of the woman before her. I was familiar and foreign all at once. I thought that she was seeing me the way I used to see myself. You used to look just like him, she said. Now I look just like you. She let out a stutter of a laugh, rolling her eyes to punctuate it, and then she slammed her bedroom door behind her. The guest bedroom is empty besides the bed, a nightstand, and my clothes scattered about the floor in heaps. I tell my mom I want to go get more furniture, and my mom tells me to get my own goddamn apartment. I ask Shayna to come with me to get more furniture, and Shayna tells me to get my own goddamn apartment. When I wake up in the mornings, I tick the last day passed off the Pug of the Month calendar hanging above the bed. It's the same Pug of the Month calendar my mom has hanging in the kitchen and her bedroom. Pugs have replaced my father in my mom's eyes, having rounded up 3 of her own to give her all of the snobbery, snort-laced affection she could ask for. I think my mom blades herself for my dad's suicide, but I know he just couldn't handle his geeky baby boy becoming the bombshell girl next door, trading a buzz cut and a soccer jersey for a set of bouncy blonde pigtails and a Fashion Nova obsession. Oh, and a bowl of foot shavings. I like to let my mom think it's all her fault, though. She'll bring a 4th pug home to add to the symphony of stunted breathing that pervades the stagnant air of our happy little home any day now. Ticking off the days was another habit of mine, and I guess I picked it up from my dad. He always had a desk calendar laid out in his office, the days crossed out of existence as each one disappeared into the void of the next. When I found him with Shayna, it was the night after my 16th birthday. Shayna and I had snuck into Utopia, the only gay bar in the area, and walked into my childhood home around 3 in the morning, tiptoeing past the office just off the foyer to get upstairs unnoticed. Shayna saw him first, clutching my shoulders so hard that their fresh acrylics left marks above my collarbone. My head turned in his direction, but my eyes glued themselves to the desktop calendar, unable to look any higher than his feet that dangled just above it. They swayed slowly, peacefully, from right to left, having already knocked over a picture of 6-year-old me by the Christmas tree, holding a snow globe with the name Daniel inscribed around its base. The glass in the frame was in shards. "We should wake your mom up," Shayna said, their words barely snaking around the lump in their throat. "Go get a knife," I said, my eyes following his feet. "Let's get him down first." I can sell the shavings whenever I want. I have at least enough to make some middle-aged white guy happy for 9 months. I just want to optimize my profit and aim for a year's supply. So day after day, I open the rickety mirror doors of the guest bedroom closet, reach above the piles of canvases I plan to touch but never will, and get the bowl down from the shelf above. Shave, shave, shave. Shayna tells me to sell the bowl and makes a twisted face like a Picasso painting anytime they see it sitting on the bedside table or resting on a clothing pile in the corner. I tell them that they don't understand the market, which is true, but they still get offended. "What the fuck are you even talking about?" they usually ask. "The market is cyclical," I usually say. "You don't even know what that means." We smoke a blunt in the trees. We hug, they leave, I shave. I know that the more I build my shavings, the more I'll make. I know that the longer I let the piles grow, the larger my profit will be. So I keep shaving and I don't explain myself. Maybe I'll never sell the shavings. I read this article last October when I was working on a thesis show studying indigenous cultures and their spiritual practices that talked about how hair carries trauma. I think that's also true of my foot shavings, and I just don't know if I could trust someone with a bowl full of access to the most personal parts of my being. I could unpack that with a therapist, but I don't think therapy would sit right with me. One night I take a break from shaving and find a guy off Grindr on Shayna's recommendation. They told me I needed to get fucked and forget about my goddamn feet. I told them that I'm unfuckable and my feet are all I have. Still, I download the app while my mom's out at the bar with her Zumba friends. My picture is my bowl of foot shavings, and my name is Tootsie. I get a message from a blank profile and ask for a picture. It's our 5th grade English teacher with the pot belly and apparently big dick. I did say I want to fuck a teacher. I like to stand by my word. He rings the bell as I'm getting out of the shower. I glance at my phone for the time and decide that I have at least an hour before my mom gets back. I rush to throw in an oversized U of M crew neck and don't bother with underwear. I open the door to a 50-year-old man in chinos and a Lacoste polo. We say our hellos, and I search for recognition in his eyes. I realize he doesn't know me without the buzz cut and cargo shorts, and I feel safe to proceed. We go inside and start to make out on the guest bed. We don't talk much, which I've learned is standard protocol for this kind of thing. We're going at it pretty heavily, so I go to loosen his belt buckle, the cold shock of metal stinging my fingertips. That's when he sees the Pyrex bowl sitting on the nightstand. What's that? He asks. My most prized possession, I say, wiping spit from my lips. Want to see? He nods his head with interest, so I stop to bring the bowl to the party. I shake it up and we watch the foot shavings fluttering around beneath the see-through lid. I think of my snow globes sitting in the stacked cardboard boxes. San Francisco, New York City, Boston. My dad used to bring them home from his business trips when I was a kid. They've been sitting in those boxes since the day after my 16th birthday, when I packed them all away with shaking hands and ticked December 18th off the calendar. When Mom moved into the ranch, I stuck them in that closet, out of sight until these past few weeks. I imagine the Golden Gate Bridge, standing proud in its glass orb, my foot shavings falling silently onto its illustrious red archways. I pop open the bowl's lid and we stare at the newly settled mounds. This bowl is full of all of my hopes and dreams, I say. My face gets tight and warm, red rushing to my cheeks instead of my heels. Are you okay? He asks. I put the Pyrex bowl aside and pull him toward me, holding back my sobs until my face is completely out of sight. We sit there for a while, my chest rising as his falls, my tears weighing the fabric of his shirt down like the blood in my socks. My feet dangle off the side of the bed. They sway slowly, peacefully, from right to left. I pull myself away and wipe my tears, smiling. Do you want to see my snow globes? I ask. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That was great. Our next reader would be Kanan Morse. He is a poet, literary translator, and researcher of ancient Chinese vernacular fiction and oral storytelling. His poems have recently been published or are forthcoming in No Contact and The Curator, while his translations of contemporary Chinese prose and poetry have been featured in Kenyan Review, Southern Review, The Battler, and many other journals. His translations of the novels The Invisibility Cloak and Peach Blossom Paradise are available via the New York Review of Books Classic Series. In 2016, The Invisibility Cloak won the Susan Sontag, sorry if I mispronounced that, prize for translation. A PhD candidate at Harvard University, he joins us from Taiwan, where he's currently serving a Fulbright Fellowship. Kanan Morse.
Hey everyone. I just want, very briefly, I want to thank the judges and all of these incredible readers and all of the students who are the engine, it sounds like, really the driving center of this brilliant new project. So in my 5 minutes, like Joan, I'm only going to read 3 poems. These are fairly short poems as well, so they'll go pretty quickly. The first one is called Ode to My Cast Iron Pan, a week after my father's brother died. Rough element elder, you whisper one reply to soothe doubt and worry. Give me the grease, big boy. Then you tap the sacrum, shielding your blue peony. You are seminar, major, and field. Slow rise, a scale to be murmured. Soon lethal sun held half over the dark audience horizon by a silent Sergei, letting white eggs and beets, stream-shaped bullet of flowered trout, float a dream in the lion's mouth. You are oracle to be consulted in a green linoleum kitchen before all success. Bacon fat spooned from a tuna can soaks your pitted breastplate. New asphalt found by headlights under winter rain. I named you Jolene because the song got its logic ass backwards. Only a man already lost learns to pursue heavy inches, to linger in such measured conversation, to refresh raw cheeks he steel scrubbed too roughly or left wet overnight, with a smooth painting of olive oil on dorsum, ventrum, hips, and handle. Then 3 hours in the oven and cordoned off kitchen, kept safe from the evil one family can invent in a single afternoon. And all right, this is another for all of you Philadelphia natives out there, if we have any of you. I am not among you, and for that reason, I hope you will pardon this intentional mispronunciation of your famous river. I know it's pronounced the Schuylkill, but I just had to, for some reason, I had to do the name the way I did it. This one's called Who Did School Kill? Idaho, Alaska. For Brendan O'Kane, with his blessing. I saw a ship called the United States float derelict in Philly. My Irish-American guide and friend says it's a record-breaking ship. It slashed the bearded Atlantic at 55 knots in 55, like pulling a cord, without elbowing any icebergs or inspiring heartthrobs, never adapted into anything, though it held 9,000 pounds of beef, 2 theaters, prize fighting ring, ton-weight chrysanthemums of gilded flatware, a fireproof grand piano. No stick of wood but the butcher's block, so it would never sink or burn. That left her with one option, the whispering, heat-leaching river current south of the Jersey factory phalanx. 2 caldera smokestacks, panoply of freckles, the hue of dried blood, bottle rocket stars on steel cheek as vast as a collective dream abandoned. Auctioned 17 times to a new design firm every decade to slice off zeros and imitation walnut paneling. My guide nods at the black stumps of a scalped pier. They're protruding like Morse code above the sawed ribs of something really dead. His eyes see no soul not there, only steel blue water and combing reeds. The ship floats. We wait. The buyer is late. Its brother, the unringable downtown bell, cracks yet another unlogged hour. And one last short one. This is a much newer poem. This is called Family Farm. Family Farm is a Boolean operator that cannot speak its own language. Family Farm is an hallucinogenic salt or just a saline placebo LSD. Family Farm is the digital printout of a rolling landscape painted with egg whites. It is the crashing down. So much becomes the crashing down, but Family Farm does so with an accent, telling stories about auction halls full of Samaritans, both wealthy and good. Family Farm is a crowded storage unit full of interest sucked out of the principal, the empty lawns beneath the bouquet of shouting campaign signs. Family Farm blesses the bar, but lets him pay for drinks, lets him resign after the argument in which Family Farm drives itself below zero, gives up the carpet and the hardwood under it, forgoes its legal personhood. Forgo it. Family farm is no longer even a term of convenience. Family farm is the colloquial blasphemy where trailers congregate to supervise family farm's remaining biological children, still wearing her costume jewelry. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Kane. That was beautiful. And especially, I know you're in Taiwan, so this is a kind of early for you. The next person I want to introduce is Nicole Lynn Cohen. Studied English and film at Tufts University. She currently works at Spectre Vision, an independent public production company in Hollywood. When she is not reading scripts and stories for others, she is working on her own. And I remember the moment that I voted on your piece, Nicole, I was so sold so quickly. So you guys are in for a real treat. Go take it away, Nicole.
Thank you so much. The name of this piece is You Should Talk to Someone. It was with me for a really long time, maybe a year, written from the perspective of somebody else. And one day I went, oh, it's not that person's story. It's the one who's been along with them. So I rewrote it, and it is what it is now. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to share it with everyone. You should talk to someone. You're mid-lesson when the classroom phone rings. You answer and are surprised to hear your neighbor, Mrs. Pearsall, on the other end. You'd better come quick. You find a sub before you go, can't be in two places at once. The PE teacher arrives in a dull peach tracksuit. She raises her over-plucked eyebrows. Do you at least have something planned for them? You've dragged out the TV stand from the back of the classroom. The mirror black screen reflects your warped faces. In the community garden at the end of your street, your wife Eleanor is in the throes of a nervous breakdown. She is stomping all over Mrs. Pearsall's tomatoes in her nightgown, the one she refuses to take off. The fabric is stained with vegetation. You can't remember the last time she took a shower. Mrs. Pearsall puts her hand on your arm. Thank goodness you're here. A dizzying pattern of gray pink roses decorates her gardening gloves. You loosen your tie. Nellie, what's the matter? 3 months ago, and the two of you are still unpacking. Opened and unopened boxes litter the hardwood floor. When her back aches, you take her for a walk, and that's when you first see the garden. Maybe she could start a plot, meet some of the neighborhood mothers. I kill everything I touch, she says. You know that. She falls down in the wet sludge. You see the crushed tomatoes at her feet and splattered across her bare legs. She needs your help, but by now you are so lost in the memory that he must fill in. He kneels beside her and returns the frayed strap of her nightgown to her shoulder, which covers her exposed and lonely breast. He helps her to her feet. Calmly, he thanks Mrs. Pearsall for the call, whose son is in your class. In another year, you will have her daughter, those beautiful children. Often, Eleanor watches them play in their yard through the spotted window above the kitchen sink. He guides her to the end of the street. You stay behind, transfixed by the ruined plot. He takes her through the front door of your house, the one with all those extra rooms. You are grateful for him. He calls the school office, asks for the principal. When they're unable to reach her, he leaves a message for you and tells them that you will not be coming back for the rest of the day. He brings Eleanor to the bathroom, sits her on the cold tile, runs her a bath, while she babbles to someone who isn't there, washes her, wraps her in terry cloth, then puts her to bed. She still bleeds a little. The doctor said it should stop soon, but that was weeks ago. Night comes. He lies in bed beside her. You are not there. You are in the empty room, wondering if she knows that you can get hysterical too. You can stomp your feet and bury your face in your hands. You can get down into the juice and seeds of those small red clusters. You can talk to somebody who isn't there. You wrench him out of bed while Eleanor murmurs to herself in a dream. He follows you, acquiescent as ever, down the long, dark hallway. Then you're both in the room. You face him, no longer able to hide your anguish. We didn't even know what color to paint it yet. His composed expression cracks. He looks around the room as if he's seeing it for the first time. The inescapable walls face him ghostly white. Eleanor hovers in the doorway, astonished. Mother of God. She looks at the crumbling plaster and the large gaping holes in your bruised and bloody hands, and she tells you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Our next reader will be Chaun Ballard, who is an affiliate editor for Alaska Quarterly Review, a graduate of the MFA program at the University of Anchorage, Alaska, and a doctoral student. Congratulations. His chapbook, Flight, earned the 2018 Sunken Garden Poetry Prize and is published by Tupelo Press. His poems have appeared or are forthcoming in Narrative Magazine, New York Quarterly, Rattle, The New York Times, Tupelo Quarterly, and other literary magazines. Everyone, this is Chaun Ballard.
Thank you very much for having me. Can everyone hear me? All right. I don't know where the mic is on my computer, so I'm just speaking into space. Yeah, so I just want to thank you for allowing me to be here, and congratulations to all of the finalists. Some wonderful work we got a chance to listen to so far, and I'm very excited to hear the rest of you read. I was thinking about what I would read today, and so I found two poems. They're very hard to read because they're written like prose blocks, and I just don't do well following along. So I'll do my best. But I think they're poems that are appropriate for the times that we're in. So I'll just read these two. So I'll start with this one. This one's titled Day 40. Day 40. Maybe the ice is still decaying in the Arctic. Maybe when we are curbed near our corner window, tails wagging as another ancestor or close kin passes by, and the polar bears move further south to elope with brown bears, maybe the Arctic becomes a melting pot, and the polar bears find existence. Maybe not. I am told when a trigger finds its target offspring, a polar grizzly dies. Their instinct, I am told, is no longer grizzly in a sense, no longer bear who kills because you have stumbled along its path where it leaves you for dead, but a mulatto hunter who will eat you behind lush green eyes. Maybe then the ice is not decaying glacial lines. Maybe so. Maybe I'm just talking about being Black. Maybe not. Maybe Mother Nature is the one with lush green eyes on her comeback, riding our brokenness, slow moving like a bronco. And as a senior citizen, the only true believer left. Maybe not. For all we know, dolphins spinning, swans voguing, and jellyfish doing whatever it is jellyfish do are all on their return to Venetian waters, like clear skies over New Delhi, a coyote to Michigan Ave. Black bears, I swear, to a studulous campus, partially observant as rule followers without masks, keeping 6 feet above soil like New Yorkers, fearfully aiding one another. Then, of course, maybe not. Maybe there are others who have their right to assemble, angry to the eyeballs with stimulus checks no one will give back. Theirs may be an ice age of another kind, a different story of grocery stores filled with empty shelves, Purell for cleaning clean hands, tissue paper for dabbing tears, and bathrooms. Then, of course, there is the economy and that night owl above my cousin's porch, April in St. Louis circling the living air. So then maybe the question is not whether we will touch distant, but how and when our want to resist will end. All right. So this is my last poem. Once again, I'm very grateful to be reading with you all, and thank you for listening to me. All right, so this was How Are We Made to Feel Small? How are we made to feel small? I remember the feeling I had after September 11th, after seeing a photo of Michael Jordan watching the footage of 2 buildings, 2 planes, 2 worlds colliding into a mess of ash and rebar. I remember it like the first time I relearned I was Black. It was summer of '91. I was 10. I was running through the apartment complex looking for bad guys to fake shoot with my plastic gun. I was Bruce Willis. The apartment complex was a scene from Die Hard. I remember the feel of wind as it caught my shirt, how safe it must have felt there, how my lungs trusted it, filled themselves with it, my legs cutting through it like propellers on a plane, like spokes on the bike I did not need to apprehend my suspects. I had a plastic gun, a fake badge. Together, they were truth. Truth was what they taught in primary school. Truth was when they asked us what we wanted to be, and some answered president, fireman, police officer. I never wanted to be president or a fireman. That's the truth. I wanted to be John McClane. I wanted to be Bruce Willis in a scene from Die Hard. I wanted to save the city and sum up the day in a catchphrase, yippee-ki-yay, mother, before my mother called me home. Outside LeBron James's LA home, someone spray painted the N-word on his gate. LeBron's response was, no matter how much money you have, no matter how famous you are, no matter how many people admire you, being Black in America is tough. It was summer of '91 when I learned this truth. Some truths are hard. Some truths are not whole truths. Like the day my teacher invited the officer into our classroom and told us his job was to protect and serve us. We believed her because she was our teacher. We believed her because he stood there, 10 feet tall. I was 10 when the officer stopped me, 10 when they stopped Rodney King. Wind was still filling my shirt, my legs propellers on a plane before he brought me to a full stop. before he examined my plastic gun, before you better spray paint an orange tip on that, before I almost shot you. My junior year in university, a far cry from California, my Texas teammates banged on my door yelling, "Turn on your TV, turn on your TV." What I saw was like the rebirth of a phoenix, an ashing. Afterwards, Michael Jordan, some basketball players, LeBron James today, staring into a TV screen, small, like the rest of us. The summer of '91 was the summer I stopped carrying a fake badge and plastic gun. It was the summer I stopped believing I was Bruce Willis. It was the summer we turned on our TV screens to find Rodney King clubbed into asphalt. It was a hard truth to come by, a hard truth to be woken to, like the scene of a Black child staring into the business end of what I want to believe is a cruel joke. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chaun. That was so, we're so grateful to have you here. That was so deeply moving. Thank you again. I want to introduce our next reader, whose work has not left my mind because it is so moving as well. Angie Kang is an illustrator and author with writing published or forthcoming in Narrative, Porterhouse Review, Lunch Ticket, Hobart, and others. In 2020, she won the Casey Shear Memorial Award for Excellence in Creative Nonfiction and the Kim R. Stack Memorial Award for Poetry. She is a recent graduate of the Brown RISD dual degree program with a BA in Literary Arts from Brown University and a BFA in illustration from RISD. Thank you so much, Angie. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. It's been so intimidating and inspiring to listen to you all read and speak, and I'm a little starstruck right now. I will be reading Still Life. After the fact, the supervisor let me go home early, and we both knew it was just a courtesy, and we both knew I couldn't afford to quit, and we both knew there was no one I could tell and nothing I could do about it. After the fact, I put Neosporin and a Spider-Man Band-Aid over Susie's cheek, told her not to tell anyone, and that it would heal, which I knew was true, and that everything would be okay, which I didn't. I had to give her credit. For a 5-year-old, my daughter had shown incredible restraint. When the supervisor's palm made contact, she only stumbled backwards and looked up from the floor at all of our shocked, wide-open eyes, and only when she touched her cheek and her little fingers came back red, only then did she cry. I should have seen it coming when I was asked to come in on a Sunday. My mom had always told me it was bad luck to work on the Lord's Day of Rest, and when I was still little enough to believe she knew everything, I also believed in God. I thought he was Chinese because every time my mom prayed to him for salvation, she used my real name, not the English one, but the one I rarely heard and never responded to. When she came to America, my mom folded up her tongue, used Mandarin less and English as much as possible, so I wouldn't speak with curled L's and R's like she did. She called me Joanne, even at home, even when it was just us, but not to God. When she prayed at the table, I opened my eyes and watched her mouth taste my Chinese name before he picked up our chopsticks to eat. I should have seen it coming when my supervisor was shouting, "Ting xia, ting xia," but he yelled so much that his trained tenor voice became a part of the studio landscape, against the pouring of plaster and tinkling of brushes against water cups, against the sound of fruit being picked up and turned around and placed back down, against the sound of wax being packaged in foam and tape sliding over cardboard. He yelled a lot because he was perpetually dissatisfied with us, but probably more because he came to America to sing, but now made his living paying others to fabricate wax fruit for artists who wanted to paint that non-perishable likeness on canvas. That even after 20 years, he could still only say the motto, "We make fruit so you can paint fruit," in perfect English, and that everything else could only be communicated through either a muddled Shanxi accent or in Mandarin. Besides, my mom only said stop, never ting xia. The entire time I lived under her roof, she only ever let a little Mandarin slip. food words in the kitchen and swear words when she'd stub her toe, and animal words from fairy tales she would tell me before I fell asleep. In this way, I'd always confused Cao and Cai, long and long. At school, when I tried to replicate the Chinese and its English equivalent, I told my astonished teacher that I was bringing fucks for lunch and that my favorite mythical creature was the wolf. Shouted vegetable when I banged my toe against a desk and rose my hand to say that dogs had descended from dragons. I should have seen it coming this morning when I gave Susie just cherries for breakfast and she bit straight down on one and cracked her tooth. You're not supposed to eat that, I told her lightly, whisking the offending pit away. But instead of laughing, Susie's mouth wobbled in a way I knew the high school babysitter wouldn't be able to steady. And in that moment, I had no choice but to bring her to work and keep her beside me all day. I should have seen it coming because my daughter has always had the tendency for trouble in the most unpredictable ways. She once snuck an entire roll of paper towels into the bathroom to watch the sheets drink water. I only saw the aftermath, but could imagine the fascination in her eyes as she ripped off one sheet after another and watched the moisture creep along the ridges until its entire form was consumed. The way that fascination turned to fear when she tried to flush it down, but the toilet choked and its contents rose with urgency and wrath, soaking our tiled floor in foul-smelling tears. I should have seen it coming because Susie loved apples. She loved when I sliced them real thin so that they melted on her tongue and she didn't have to chew too hard. She loved the shiny red ones and the bitter green ones and the way the air bruised them after they were in her plastic baggie all day. She even loved the half-rotted ones I bought at discounted section of the grocery. Every time I handed her a piece of that fruit, she thanked me with gummy laughter. I should have seen it coming because there was only really a few rules: no sitting, no talking, and no eating the real fruit. The supervisor was most particular about the last rule because fruit was expensive, especially in the off-season. And even when we had molds of them, the plaster would only last for about 100 castings before it eroded beyond use. I should have seen it coming because Susie had just learned to read, but cat and hat and mat won't get you anywhere with a do not eat sign written in even simplified Chinese characters. So when it happened, I wanted to blame my mom for refusing to teach Susie Mandarin. You turned out fine, she said. But back then, she never thought I would drop out of university, take the first job I could find off of Craigslist, work in the garage of a failed Chinese opera singer so I would never have to face anyone from my old life. Never thought I would exist among immigrants who only spoke Mandarin, isolated in the only place I ever saw anyone else other than my crying child and my landlord. She never thought I would miss the roots she had severed so I could fly. She expected me never to look back. By the time she realized she might have been wrong about me, about Susie, she had already been diagnosed, and it was too much to ask for her last few months to be spent teaching Susie and me how to say the same vowel 5 different ways. When it happened, I thought about my mom holding Susie and crying, as if this were evidence of either her success or failure as a mother, but I never figured out which. When it happened, I thought of one fall in Naperville. The man I loved at the time made dinner for our anniversary, and I was about to tell him I was 4 weeks pregnant with Susie, but his dog had gotten loose somehow and stolen the entire roasted chicken off the counter, and when the man I loved came back to see all his work spread across the tiled floor, he held the mutt down and beat her right there in his kitchen. I blinked tightly and turned away and listened to the soft whining punctuated with thwacks as I stared out the window and watched the wind undress the bashful trees. When he calmed down, his dog slunk away and we ordered Chinese takeout and held hands and slurped noodles and fed each other pieces of Kung Pao chicken. That night, I kissed the man I loved and I didn't tell him about the baby. 2 months later, and only when I began to show, I broke up with him over the phone. When it happened, I thought, of course, because all the men in my life have hurt me, especially the ones I expect to do so. When it happened, I thought about the high school French class I had to take to graduate. Back then, I thought it didn't matter because I didn't want to go to France. So I didn't try very hard, never fully learned how to speak in simple future tense, just the present and the near future. Every sentence I formed was about now, 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 else, about the now and the immediate horizon. But the ability to put the distant future into words means anticipating there will be one, and I could never look past my nows to decide the nebulous idea of a later. All I did was listen to my mom and put one foot in front of the other, following a path until there wasn't one anymore. Still, I had passed the class, but even back then, I knew I shouldn't have. When it happened, Jackie gasped. She was a wisp of a woman, slim like my mom, the only other worker who spoke any English and didn't go by her Chinese name. Everyone else had immigrated from China hoping for a better life. Jackie stumbled here nearly by accident. When she was 23, she followed her husband through immigration, found out he was conducting biology research not only in the university laboratory, but also in the side of the road motel rooms. Then she left him. She said she chose to stay in Illinois for the last 30 years because she figured the suffering was the same no matter where she went, but at least here she'd be able to breathe clean air. When bustling around the studio, Jackie sometimes brushed my shoulders in the same way my mom used to when she needed to get by me in our tiny kitchen. Once, Jackie asked me why I stayed in this dump when I could speak English and at least find some retail job somewhere else where the supervisor wasn't overtly cruel. And I didn't have a good reason for her, at least not one I could say without crying. When we first met 6 years ago, Jackie explained that her Chinese name, Yun Cong, which means artistic intellect, sounded too close to Yang Cong, which means onion. I don't want to be the onion girl, she said. What's your Chinese name, Joanne? I told her I didn't want to share because also embarrassing, which was true, but not because of the name, but because I couldn't pronounce it without revealing I was born in America and had never mastered my tones and still sometimes accidentally called my mom a horse. Really, Mandarin was tricky like that. For instance, in Mandarin, the way you say orange, like the fruit, is 橘子. The way you say red, like the color, is hong. Those were two terms I'd heard at home because my mom loves orange, like the fruit, and hates red, like the color. But what I'd never heard before was 橘红, like the color, which meant orange, because my mom neither loved nor hated the color orange, and people rarely discuss things they feel indifferently about. So 6 years ago, when the supervisor told me to paint my wax 橘子, like the fruit, 橘红, like the color, it made sense to assume he wanted me to mix together the same amount of straight from the tube orange and straight from the tube red. After all, 橘红 has equal stress put on both the 橘 and the hong. And if that equation were followed exactly in proportion to its linguistic counterpart, the natural saturation of colors would result in a mixture more red than orange. So much more red, in fact, that when I nervously asked, what color does this combination look like, to anyone in the room, they all said hong, with surprise and suspicion that I would ask such an obvious question. It did seem odd to paint an orange like the fruit, red like the color, but I was open to unconventional art practices. I was not about to judge an artist for commissioning a red wax orange as a reference for their personal work. I was not getting paid to paint fruit. I was getting paid to paint fruit. More importantly, I was getting paid. When he came back and saw my mess, the supervisor had started yelling, "It's a fucking orange." It took me a moment to realize he wasn't saying vegetable orange. Have you ever seen a red fucking orange? His tempers never made complete sense. After all, if this had been so obvious in the first place, why instruct me at all? Why not trust that I could see an orange like the fruit was orange like the color and react accordingly? I should have left that day when he slammed the wax into the trash can and told me to start over, even though that meant casting another fruit instead of just painting over their fronting color. I should have seen it coming because I was weak, and I've always known that about myself. I didn't have the heart to yell at Susie when she toddled off, yes, but more than that, I didn't have the heart to stop hiding and give my daughter space to wander and more life to claim. I should have seen it coming when Jackie tapped my shoulder and said, "Kan," because she never spoke Mandarin with me. Our conversations mostly consisted of her retelling scary stories from an anthology she stole from the public library, meant for children, about dolls and clowns and ghosts, and me listening. The main characters, usually girls, always died by the end. Jackie asked me to correct her pronunciation, but I hadn't the heart, only told her how, so that she would beam at me. Jackie could tell I didn't know the tones as well, but she never let that on, and her silence around the subject probably stemmed from the same kindness as my howls. I should have seen it coming when I heard the supervisor stand up, because he never did except for that one time when he had recorded a CD and played it for us for a month straight. He would get up every hour to repeat the track, sometimes doing a little skip on the way back to the opening gust of song where his warbling vocalizations began again. It was kind of pathetic, as the only people who listened to his life's work were the ones who depended on him for their salaries. Once he was so moved by his own melody, he jumped up and lifted an older woman out of her station, swaying with her and opening his mouth so wide in joy, we could see the little gaps in his gums where his teeth used to live. I should have seen it coming, because this time when he stood up, he was not joyful in the slightest, and he was up and standing and now moving quickly, trying to intercept the apple before it met her mouth. But even so, with all the signs, what I did not see coming was how I recoiled too. How the sound of the supervisor hitting my daughter left a ringing in my ears, as if I too had been struck, as if I had been the one who was bleeding, was crying, was helpless. After the fact, on the car ride home, I put on the radio to drown out the ringing and Susie's whimpering in the back seat. And while stopped at the traffic light, I leaned forward to look at the sky, trying to remember what my mom used to say at the dinner table before we started eating. She never was too creative. She used to combine the same 4 things the pastor said at church about gratitude and health and love and heaven, finally ending with her own plea to be saved. Do, woman. Do, woman. My lips formed the syllables as I attempted it. Do, women. When the light turned green, I put my foot to the accelerator and my lips together as I repeated that prayer again and again, trying to get the pronunciation right, so that if someone up there was listening, they might just understand. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Our next reader is Emma Wynn, who received her MTS from Harvard Divinity School and teaches philosophy and religion and LGBTQ US history at a boarding high school in Connecticut. Her poetry has appeared in Sky Island Journal, which nominated her poem for the Pushcart Prize, West Trade Review, Peculiar Magazine, Apricity Press, the Raw Art Review. Her first chapbook, Help Me to Fall, was a winner of the 2019 Moonstone Arts Center chapbook contest. Welcome, Emma Wynn.
Thank you so much. Is everyone able to hear me okay? Great. That's always the first question that I've learned to ask, because I've had too many Zoom classes where after I've talked for 10 minutes, my students hesitantly say, oh, you've been on mute the whole time. And then, you know, you unmute yourself and have to say it all again. So the first poem that I'm going to read, I'll read 3 poems as well. And the first poem that I'm going to read is called Homecoming. All through France and later Germany, when his unit settled for the night in copses, barns, townhouses with bombed off faces, tents in mud, my grandfather readied himself to survive as for prayer. First, he'd find a piano, buy time with an egg, then wash his socks and hang them to dry before morning. All around him, foot rot and privates drinking kerosene, swaying to their own shattered music. So he came home unbroken, contraband Nazi banner ripped from a pole, smuggled home in spare trousers, married glamorous Goyim women, tucked a baby grand under a velvet quilt at night, bought a silver cater for the synagogue, furs and theater tickets, pickled tomatoes and sandwiches fisted full of brisket, demanded burnt toast in diners, kept a beautiful beard and 4 children, a Cadillac. Remember, my dad laughs, when he came home sometimes to leave groceries at the door, you could just wave goodbye to him going down the stairwell if you ran. My aunt puts her hand over his. In her house, Last year's Christmas tree still hangs with glass glitter and brittle brown arms, one slip from going up in flames. At the piano, he pounds the fallboard as I fumble notes and cry. Grandfather bleeds out in Beth Israel. It's late, and Dad's car tears out again. On my bedroom wall, the red wash of headlights shrinking into the night. We sleep easy as soldiers until it's almost a relief to hear the bombs begin to whistle their way home. Thank you. The next poem is called Riding in Iceland. And if any of you have ever visited Iceland, they have special, very hardy ponies there who have a fourth gait that only that horse has. And so this is about the experience of thinking you're a decent rider and then going and finding a horse that is not what you expect. The unrising sun only shadows the sky as we climb the black rocks. Ponies and riders threading the hills, where the absent light lives instead low in the moss that glows green in the gaps. Our guide says you can drink a pint, back soft in the saddle as they race forward underneath. The horses, home only on this island. But their tolt jolts me down the bones, and I can't find my seat. There's no way not to be wet. Rain off hood and sleeve, almost snow, and the air puffy with fog. At the top, the rock walls disappear and nothing takes their place. We dismount creakily for lunch. The ponies muffle at the sparse grass as we gnaw soggy bread, wondering what it would be like to ride the world, not as tourists, but saddleless, easy and shaggy in the drizzle, with a gait wholly our own. Thank you so much. So my final poem is called Ebb Tide. The sea's glimmer has gone down, and I walk out on new ground, streaked with bile-colored foam and tangles of wet weed, the reek of the crotch of the sea. At my foot, a half-eaten fish, silver-skinned head and tail bridged by a ladder of bone. A crab scuttles sideways, waving his clippers. The gulls scream and dive, and briefly, he flies. They empty him in swarms. Some days it's like this. The mercy of men, a flurry of beaks, squatting in the sand, nauseous with exhaustion and spent grace, trying to open my sharp arms to the emptiness, which is all we can ever hold. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Emma. That was so vivid. I loved it. So we have one final reader, and I'm pleased to introduce Jared Green, who is an author, literary critic, and professor of English literature at Stonehill College. His poetry has appeared in Waccamaw, Tiny Seed, Emergency Index, in the anthology The Art of the Living, which is forthcoming from Poetos Press. And his fiction and critical writing are published or forthcoming in The Right Launch, New Limestone Review, and KGB. His work has been recognized by the Martha's Vineyard Institute of Creative Writing with 2021 Pushcart Prize nomination in fiction, a 2019 MVICW Fellowship, and a Robert and Margaret McCall Johnson Fellowship in Fiction from the state of Rhode Island. Welcome, Jared. You had one of the most incredible endings I've ever read to a fiction piece, so I'm so excited to hear you read.
Thank you so much for that generous introduction. Can everybody hear me? I just want to say, first of all, as the last reader, it's such a joy to be a part of this event and to be among so much electric language and so much excellence. Thank you all. I'll be reading the story Fulfillment. Because the TV had been left on and because the report was about the protests in France, the topic of that break was the Gilets jaunes, which none of us could pronounce correctly. This was in the break room where the coffee was cold already, old already. The coffee was always cold and oxidized in the break room. We wondered what these Gilets jaunes were after and why they were smashing so many nice things. We wondered, too, why they wore yellow vests, and Dana, who'd been to France once with her first husband, said it was because that's what they called themselves. Gilets jaunes? It means yellow vest, she said, spooning a heap of amaretto-flavored powder into her coffee. The kind French people keep in their trunks because it's like the law there? They have to put them on if their cars break down on the side of the road. It's for visibility. But what does visibility have to do with a gas tax? Asked the new guy with the round, sallow face, the one whose name was a kid's name, Bobby, maybe Billy, the one from Pedricktown. There was silence as we all considered this question, and then Andy said simply, trucking. And we nodded. Through the windows of the break room, we could see the fulfillment center floor, the procession of squat orange robots skittering their ladybug bodies around with racks of the world's goods on their backs, streaming toward the pickers who load the bins that are conveyed to the packers who put the items into boxes that get placed onto the conveyor belts that feed the packages to the loaders who stack them in the phalanx of throbbing trucks to go out onto the highways of America. So we understood. Trucks. No trucks. No fulfillment. Then out of nowhere, Andy said he was a Marxist. I misunderstood him. Maybe because of his cleft palate, or because this was said out of the clear blue, or maybe because I'm always just half listening. Marcus? I echoed. Or thought I echoed, even though it made no sense that Andy would say he was Marcus. Marcus worked the floor as a picker and was from Guatemala, so this was confusing. No, Marx, he said, already annoyed. Karl Marx? I'm a Marxist. Andy was always annoyed about something or other. This is what breaks are like, oxidized coffee and very little time, and Andy, annoyed. He looked grayish-green in the fluorescent light, his thinning hair the color of mouse fur, and I thought, when did we get this old? How long have we been at this job? He looked at me with his sad, owlish eyes, weary and red-rimmed, Einstein's eyes, but without the mischief. I thought of that picture of Einstein sticking out his tongue and whether he'd been thinking about some big, important equation when he did that or nothing at all. My guidance counselor in high school had that in her office, poster size. And I'd stare at it and wonder what Einstein's jokes must have been like. It's hard to imagine famous people from history making their friends laugh, but they probably did sometimes. Then I remembered that Andy had just said that thing about being a Marxist. It seemed like somebody ought to respond, so I told him I didn't know what it meant to be one, and he said that it meant he was against capitalism, which I also didn't really understand. The workers, he said. It's about the workers. That's us. How we're exploited. He gestured to everyone in the break room, but they were all back on their phones. Dana stirred her coffee, the reflection of the TV in little glowing squares on the surface of her glasses. Then Andy pursed his thin, grayish lips, dissatisfied. Workers of the world unite? Like those Gilets jaunes, man. On strike? Don't you know anything? Oh, I've heard that, I think. I was trying to remember what Gilets jaunes meant. And I knew we had just been talking about it, but it was already gone. I could tell my expression didn't please him. Well, there you go. That's Marx. On TV, the protesters were burning cars, smashing windows, looting a Zara. Dana gasped. I shopped at that Zara. She sounded shaken, like she might cry. I felt like maybe I should hug her and then remember that we weren't supposed to do things like that at work. I thought about what Andy had said instead. Where, though? I asked. What? His voice was muffled by a mouthful of whatever he was chewing. Unite where? There are a lot of workers in the world. Where would we meet to unite? That's not the point. Jesus, that's not the point. Behind him, I could see a bright yellow robotic lift cruising the fulfillment floor. Fulfilling. That's when I noticed that Andy was eating my tuna sandwich and also that he had only one arm, even though he had definitely had two the day before. What happened to your arm? I hope the question didn't come off insulting or ignorant. Dana looked up, concerned, and something about her newly permed hair and the unusually short distance between her nose and her upper lip made me feel judged. Maybe that was something I was supposed to already know. Maybe she was going to report me to HR for being insensitive again. Fuck if I know, said Andy with a hollow laugh. He flicked at the empty denim shirt sleeve that was folded up like an accordion and safety pinned to his shoulder. Woke up this morning and it just wasn't there anymore. You know how it is. There one day, gone the next, like they say. What a thing, right? Shit, that's some rotten luck. Does it hurt? No. Can't even remember what it felt like. I better not lose this one, though. He held out his left forearm, which was a good-looking specimen. At the wrist was an age-faded tattoo of a skull pierced by a dagger and twined by a snake, like he had gotten it out of a dictionary illustration of the word tattoo. Otherwise, I'll have to look for another job, and I need to hang on to this one because now I have to get one of those prosthetic arms they have down at the medical supply shop over in Pittman. What'll that set you back? Fucker's titanium, gets Wi-Fi and shit, so the deductible's like 3 months' pay. But I called the fulfillment center's disability claims department and they said they're going to give me a loan, so as soon as I can get the arm, I can work a night shift too and start paying it off. But you'd still be a Marxist? What? What kind of question is that? It's got nothing to do with how many arms you got. It's a whole other kind of thing. And I didn't say anything, and neither did anyone else. An alarm sounded on the floor, which meant there'd been another accident, and Andy said, "Doesn't matter for shit, though. We'll all be replaced by robots soon anyhow." That night after Beth came home from the sortation center and fell asleep putting the twins to bed, I sat in the living room and thought about Andy's arm. Sortation center people didn't have these kind of worries aside from the robots, which were coming for all our jobs, and probably pretty soon. Beth was tired all the time, sure, separating this thing from that, having to put stuff where it needed to go, but her co-workers usually stayed intact, not us. Associates at the Swedesboro, New Jersey fulfillment center had things go missing all the time. Teeth, hair, fingers, every now and then an eye. I'd never yet heard of a whole arm going missing, though. HR said there was something about how the company wasn't responsible for major limb loss in our contracts, deep down, pages in. But who could get that far? I wondered if maybe it was going to happen to me someday, and what would bother me least if I lost it. It reminded me of this game we'd play as kids, asking each other if we'd rather lose our smell or taste, a foot or a hand, be blind or deaf. Who knew we'd need to have this thought out one day? I folded my hands on my belly, which took up more space than it used to. It occurred to me I could lose that. I'd misplaced the remote, so I was stuck on a channel that seemed to be showing nothing but commercials. I couldn't even remember what program I'd been watching before I got to thinking about Andy's arm, or if there had been a program at all, or if this was one of those channels that were just ads, morning to night. I wondered what Andy was doing, if maybe he was out uniting with other workers of the world, or if he too was just watching an all-ad channel and drinking a beer with his one arm. The commercial was for foaming bathroom cleaner. The commercial said open happiness. The commercial promised that Tylenol was better because it was made with love. I thought that this was probably what Andy meant by capitalism. And I regretted that I hadn't shown him more sympathy. I regretted that all I'd been thinking about was that I was glad it happened to him, not me. I mean, he was a mopey pain in the ass, but Jesus, a whole arm. I thought about my grandmother, who worked all her life in a thread-waxing factory in Hoboken and was missing 2 fingers on her left hand. It seemed like maybe this had something to do with our predicament, but I couldn't really remember how it had happened. I regretted that I hadn't asked Nonna about it before she died, but I was too young, too frightened she would touch me with the missing parts, which makes no sense now. Now it's too late. I regret a lot of things, watching commercials in the dark, replaying all the dumb shit I've said to people, all the mistakes I've made, all the ways I've failed to be the right kind of person. That's the way it always is until I take my sleeping pill and put an end to it for a few hours. That night I thought of the things I'd said to Andy. Wondered if they made me sound like a dunce. But it wasn't my fault. Karl Marx was not the sort of thing a fulfillment center associate in Swedesboro has a whole lot of time for. Where did a guy like Andy find the energy? The commercial was for Bank of America. The commercial was for ADM's genetically modified rice. The commercial was for Paxil. The commercial said you never get a second chance to make a first impression. The commercial was for a sequel to a franchise that already had a lot of sequels, all of which I'd seen. I'd see this one too. I tried to think of what had been there before the fulfillment center was built. Was there a forest? Another warehouse? A neighborhood of the descendants of the Swedes who'd settled here? It wasn't even that long ago, but it seemed like there was no before, only an after. And then the TV went out. No warning, just a blank screen. Actually, it wasn't entirely blank. It was a murky gray-green, and when I got real close, I could still kind of make out some movement, but it was swampy, submerged. The sound was wonky, too, just staticky wheezes and random noise bursts, like the TV was trying to catch its breath. Damn thing was brand new, too. LED, 4K, surround sound. Biggest I'd ever bought and delivered right from the fulfillment center not 2 weeks before. I gave it a good whack to the side like my old man used to do with our cathode ray set, but that didn't make any difference. So I got my tools and figured I'd take a look. A sticker on the back said in big white letters, "Caution! Live parts are made accessible when the cover is removed." Which seemed exactly what I was there for, so I unscrewed the housing even though I barely knew a thimbleful about electronics. I shone my flashlight inside and tried to make sense of it. There were the usual circuit boards and resistors, capacitors, diodes, and the like. But what I didn't expect was that there would be a full heart-lung block inside too, connected to the main board by a fibrous web of what looked like maybe nerves or veins threaded through with copper. Hard to tell what was what. There was no mention of any of this in the manual. Turned out the thin wheezing sound was coming from a ridged tracheal tube that ran up from the middle of the lungs and connected to the speakers. As for the heart, if that's what it was palsied, quivering, but not beating. The lung parts had collapsed like deflated footballs. It wasn't clear what any of it was made from, but it glistened in the flashlight beam, and there was a strong iron odor, unmistakably that of warm meat. Nervous that maybe Beth would come down and see this mess and think God knows what of the situation, I thrust my hand into the interior of the set and seized the heart. I knew right away from the moist heat of it that it was real, that it had belonged to someone, and knowing this made a shudder run the length of my spine. The trachea wheezed and sputtered. It sounded a little like a plea and a little like a song you can't really remember. Because it seemed like the thing to do, I squeezed the heart gently, several times, and then more urgently, until it began to throb on its own, which made the lungs reinflate and issue a long, guttural sigh. Then it hummed, like maybe it felt some kind of deep pleasure, and the sound vibrated the trachea as it worked its way out through the surround sound speakers. The TV sparked to life, and I sat, spent, watching it from the inside as the heart pumped a steady rhythm, and the advertisements flowed from one to the next. Antidepressants and online stock trades and mobile service and cholesterol drugs and SUVs and diet programs and exercise equipment and baby formula and life insurance and candidates for president. The commercial was for the army. The commercial was for Disneyland. The commercial said to drink young, think young. I switched off the flashlight and sat there, vaping, listening to all the appliances that we lived with, churn and hum and churn. I thought of what I might see if I opened them all up. Knuckles and finger bones, wrapped in glistening fat, a tibia striped with muscle and sheathed in skin, a nose, a uterus, a rib cage, a penis. Who knew what it took to make any of this run? Maybe there'd be Andy's arm, a fine specimen, with a tattoo of Karl Marx, holding a hammer and a sickle. The commercial was for Botox. The commercial was for pork. The commercial was for a company that could make diamonds from the carbon in the bodies of our deceased loved ones. That one got to me, to be honest. That one felt like it was for me alone. Back when I proposed to Beth, I used the ring my father had given me with the diamond he'd had made from my mother. My father and I agreed it was very meaningful, very beautiful. In its gleam, I'd always thought I could still see the shine of her eyes. But Beth never wanted to wear it. I regretted that this was our first big fight, and that afterward I'd sold the ring out of spite and never told my father. Where was it now, this last piece of the woman who had loved us both with such force? I shut off the TV and sat in the suburban dark listening to its heartbeat, to its nearly imperceptible breathing, thinking that I finally understood something about how Beth had felt. When she woke up, I would tell her this. Tell her how sorry I was about it all. And I thought to myself that there was no putting it off anymore. We had some decisions to make. It was time for a change before this was all there would ever be. We could be park rangers, maybe. We could go out west like people probably still did. We could split for France and join the Gilets Jaunes, or maybe just play with the twins more, sing more songs, read more books, tell them about the wonders of being alive. We could start any one of our new lives by putting all the appliances out on the curb in the dark of night. The furniture, too. Beth would understand, I'm sure, if I could just think of the right way to explain it. She'd understand that once you see a thing like this in a television set, you can't just go on like before. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared, and thank you to all the readers who read before. It was amazing, and again, like super rewarding to be here and to listen to such great readers and writers. um, so yeah, just hi Pup, yes, she's misbehaving. Just ignore her. So I'd like to just take a little pause to congratulate everyone again on being finalists, on reading their work. Before I announce the raffle winners, so in the beginning we did announce that automatically, like when you register to be a part of the Zoom, you would also be put into a raffle. So drum roll, please. The first raffle winner is Sarah Berry. If you're here, Sarah Berry, congratulations. Second raffle winner is Alexandra Millam. Congratulations as well. I really don't want to mess this name up. But A Sigil, last name is Sigil, first name starts with an A. Congratulations to you as well. Rashida. I really don't want to mess up my names. I'm sorry, guys. Rashida, you also won as well. And Susan Morse. So we just randomly chose these. We use like a wheel of names thing there. So we'll let them know. We'll let you guys know. We'll email you regarding like, where's the best place to send your prizes directly from Great Lake Review. So congratulations again. Super exciting. I'm going to hand this over to Shannon.
Thank you, Adelis. Well, we're at the end of our show here. I just want to thank all of our readers, all of our judges, everyone who submitted to Subnivean, even if you were not selected, if you're here in the audience, and the attendees. We've had, I think, one of the greatest 2 hours in literature ever. And I am just so grateful to have listened to all of your pieces and especially to have voted on them as well. Thank you guys again for coming. Bye, everybody. Show's over.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great night.
Bye. Bye, everybody.